Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on Gravitas is on the Russia-Ukraine war. Is it finally coming to an end? The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has agreed to cease the Russia-Ukraine war at the current battle lines. And this move follows intense pressure from US President Donald Trump. We are telling you all about how things reached this point and what possibly lies ahead. That's coming up in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, we are focusing on the Trump administration's efforts to ensure that the situation in West Asia does not once again heat up between Israel and Hamas. We also tell you about the daring robbery that has left Europe and the world stunned. A detailed report on that Louvre heist coming up. All this and more lined up for you. The Russia-Ukraine war that has defined the story in Europe for nearly 4 years now may be finally coming to an end. The Ukrainian president has accepted a battlefield freeze, effectively conceding defeat to Russia and agreeing to halt the fighting at the current battle lines. The move follows intense pressure from US President Donald Trump, who reportedly told the Ukrainian leader he is out of options and has to agree to Russia's terms to end the war. This was at the White House last week. Trump has urged both Ukraine and Russia to stop fighting immediately and hold their positions. Listen first to what he said.
You stop at the battle line and both sides should go home, go to their families, stop the killing, and that should be it. Stop right now at the battle line. I told that to President Zelensky. I told it to President Putin.
And Trump's call has now become official policy. Zelensky, along with the top European leaders, announced a joint statement. With the European Union, the statement calls for an immediate cessation of hostilities and recognizes the current battle lines as the basis for the peace negotiations. And the statement bears the signatures of Zelensky, the European Council President, the European Commission Chief, the French President, the German Chancellor, and the Italian Prime Minister. But even before this joint statement, Zelensky's comments last Friday gave a preview of what is to come.
I think we have to stop where we are, and he is right. President is right, and we have to stop where we are. This is important, to stop where we are and then to speak.
Zelensky's statement marked the first time since the war started that Kiev has accepted that no further territorial gains are likely. Behind the scenes, reports suggesting Trump has pressed Ukraine to accept Moscow's terms as part of a broader peace deal. According to European diplomats quoted by the Financial Times, Trump pressured Kiev to accept Moscow's terms, and these developments come just days after Trump publicly said he did not think that Ukraine would actually win the war against Ukraine. So, what does the current battle line look like at this point? Here's a look at this map coming up on your screen. On the left is what the map looked like just before the war broke out. This was in 2022. And on the right is how things stand right now. February 2022, October 2025. Russia currently controlling roughly 20% of Ukraine's territory. These include areas in Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. The Russian president, in fact, is said to have demanded complete control of Donetsk while signaling possible withdrawal from parts of Zaporizhia and Kherson if Kiev agrees to formalize those gains. So, with Ukraine now ready for talks based on the existing battle lines, the next move lies with Putin. And Trump plans to raise this issue directly with the Russian leader during an upcoming meeting in Budapest. The Russian foreign minister, in fact, has said that Moscow's terms for peace remain unchanged since the Trump-Putin meeting or the summit in Alaska in the month of August. And in the latest, Lavrov has said that stopping in Ukraine will mean forgetting the original causes of the war. Here's the statement.
Now when we hear from Washington that we must stop immediately and that we must not discuss anything further, stop and let history judge, if we simply stop, that will mean forgetting about the root causes of the conflict which Donald Trump's administration has clearly understood and voiced.
So for now, Europe's most brutal conflict in decades remains unresolved, but this could be the beginning of a new phase, one where words and not weapons will decide the future. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is in Israel as the Trump administration works to shore up that fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. It also aims to push for the next critical phase of its 20-point Gaza peace plan. In fact, the U.S. Vice President says he has great optimism that the Gaza ceasefire will hold. This is Vance's first visit there as Vice President. It is seen as a strong signal of America's commitment to a permanent end to the war. He is expected to press Prime Minister Netanyahu to begin talks on long-term issues, including the formation of an interim government in Gaza, the deployment of an international stabilization force, a gradual Israeli military withdrawal, and eventually the disarmament of Hamas.
Hamas doesn't comply with the deal, very bad things are going to happen. But I'm not going to do what the President of the United States has thus far refused to do, which is put an explicit deadline on it, because a lot of this stuff is difficult. A lot of this stuff is unpredictable. You basically have two regions in Gaza, one of which is relatively safe, I wouldn't say very safe, and one of which is incredibly dangerous. And part of ensuring that we get to a durable peace is to broaden the scope of the area that's safe. And the International Security Force is a big part of that. We don't yet have the International Security Force set up. That's something we're working towards. We have a number of volunteers who want to participate in that International Security Force.
And joining the U.S. Vice President in Israel are Trump envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, who are also key figures behind the original ceasefire deal. Their mission now is to keep the momentum going, despite fresh escalations that threaten to derail the truce. And on Sunday, a Hamas anti-tank missile attack killed 2 Israeli soldiers. Israel responded with massive airstrikes, killing at least 45 Palestinians reportedly. Prime Minister Netanyahu said 153 tons of bombs were dropped in retaliation for what he called a blatant ceasefire breach.
Hamas immediately felt the force of our arm. We attacked it with 153 tons of bombs. 153 tons of bombs. We attacked dozens of targets throughout the length and breadth of the Strip, eliminating many terrorists, including senior commanders. I made it clear from the start, a ceasefire is not a license for Hamas to threaten us.
Despite the violence, both sides insist they remain committed to the ceasefire. Hamas says it's facing extreme difficulty locating the remains of the deceased hostages under the rubble. 13 of the 28 known hostage bodies have been returned since the truce started. 20 living Israeli hostages were released last week, remember, in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees. But the path forward remains politically complex, to say the least. Prime Minister Netanyahu has made it clear. His opposition to one major element of Trump's peace plan, the participation of Turkish military forces in the proposed international stabilization force. He has called it a red line, pointing to Turkey's growing regional influence and strained ties with Israel. Netanyahu is also wary of Turkish companies involved in the reconstruction of Gaza, which the Turkish president is actively pursuing. Still, sources reportedly say the US is holding advanced talks on that front, with Israel maintaining a cautious stance. And the humanitarian situation in Gaza remains dire. Meanwhile, the UN's World Food Programme saying that while more than 6,700 tons of food entered Gaza since the truce began, it still falls well short of the daily targets.
Since the ceasefire started on the 11th of October, we now have over 530 trucks into Gaza supporting bakeries, nutrition programs, general food distributions. So far, we've had over 6,700 tons of food. That's enough for close to 500,000 people for 2 weeks. Daily deliveries continue, and they are now averaging around 750 tons. That's much better than what we had before the ceasefire, but it's still well below our target, which is around 2,000 tons every day.
According to Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry, the death toll from Israeli strikes now stands at 68,216. People, since the war started on October 7. In fact, Trump saying that the ceasefire is still on track, but issued a blunt warning that Hamas will be wiped out if they break it. And for now, the focus remains on keeping the current ceasefire alive and laying the groundwork for a fragile but potentially transformative peace situation. A heist that left the world stunned. 7 minutes of precision planning and pure audacity. The Louvre, France's crown of art and history, robbed in broad daylight, and the priceless Napoleonic jewels gone without a trace. Our next report getting you the inside details of how this daring robbery really unfolded.
It could have been the opening scene of a thriller. But this was real, and it unfolded inside the world's most famous museum. 4 masked thieves broke into the Louvre's Apollo Gallery and vanished with France's crown jewels treasures, once worn by Napoleon's family, in a breathtaking 7-minute heist. Pictures from the scene showed the ladder leading up to a first-floor window. 2 of the thieves got inside by cutting through the window with power tools. Using power tools, the thieves sliced through the window pane and slipped inside the gallery that houses France's royal jewelry, tiaras, emerald necklaces, sapphire diadems.
There was a robbery.
Oh, really? That's what we were thinking, but no, it's still like a Hollywood movie type of thing. Yeah, but wow. Yeah, I'm surprised.
You know, you think in the Louvre, of all places, don't they have like the best security on the planet? So it's crazy. I'm thinking an inside job, maybe? It's really weird.
Experts say France has 1 week, maybe less. After that, the jewels may be lost forever.
There's no way they can just submit these things to Sotheby's or Christie's, and they need to break them up. And what they're going to do to hide them is open up the jewels and take out the diamonds and the sapphires and the emeralds and take them over to a place where they can have them recut in Antwerp or in Tel Aviv, and find a jeweler that won't ask any questions.
The French police have launched a massive manhunt for the 4 robbers. The Interpol has been roped in. Government is reviewing security at the museum. Unions have complained that security has been reduced even as footfall increased over the years.
At the Louvre, we've lost 190 posts in the past 10 years in the area of security and surveillance. And within the Ministry of Culture, there's a specific sector dedicated to issues of safety, security, and heritage protection. 25% of that sector has been cut over the past decade. When you eliminate professional posts, sooner or later there's a price to pay.
It's a crazy story, you know. We could say this is the heist of the decade. If you target the Louvre, the most important museum in the world, and then get away with the French crown jewels, something was wrong with security.
It's not a robbery, it's France's royal past, vanished in 7 breathtaking minutes. And the question lingers, will the crown jewels of France ever be seen again? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And before we go on any further, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We are telling you all about the new Prime Minister of Japan, the first female Prime Minister of the country, and getting you her life story. That's coming up in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, what was Delhi's air quality like a day after Diwali? We are getting you a detailed report. All this and more coming up. US President Donald Trump has confirmed that he has been invited to meet with the Chinese president, with a highly anticipated meeting expected to take place early next year. And this summit comes at a time of tense US-China relations, which have been marked by trade wars, economic competition, political struggles over global influence. In fact, the US president set a confident tone for the upcoming talks, stating that the two countries would strike a fantastic deal. But then Trump, being Trump, was in a way quick to add that if no agreement could be reached, then Beijing will have to face repercussions. Listen into what he said.
I think China's been very respectful of us. They're paying tremendous amounts of money to us as in the form of tariffs. As you know, they're paying 55%. That's a lot of money. They never were paying anything over years and years and years. But they were like anybody else. A lot of countries took advantage of the U.S. They're not taking advantage anymore. No, China's paying 55% and a potential 155% come November 1st unless we make a deal.
In addition to trade, the US is now focused on China's dominance in the rare earth mineral sector, a strategic area where China has seen growing control in recent years. We've been telling you about this. And Trump has warned China not to play the rare earth game, as China's tightening export controls have rattled the global supply chains, particularly in the defense and semiconductor space. These minerals are essential for high-tech industries. But back in Beijing, the 4th plenary session of the 20th Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party is underway. In fact, this meeting is expected to be a platform for major governance changes, including potential leadership renewals and new political initiatives. The Chinese president is facing increasing pressure at home, with the country's economic growth slipping to a yearly low of 4.8% in the third quarter, which is below the government's target of 5%. Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign remains a central element of his leadership, with numerous high-ranking officials removed or under investigation since he started his third term in 2022. 9 full members of the Central Committee have been dismissed, most of them tied to corruption charges. One incident that is capturing global attention is the mysterious case of Qin Gang. The former Chinese foreign minister disappeared in late June 2023. And according to recent reports in a Hong Kong daily, a photograph showing a figure resembling him attending the Beijing International Music Festival and sparked speculation about his whereabouts. If true, this would mark his first public appearance since his removal, adding yet another layer of intrigue to China's political landscape and what's happening. In fact, as the US-China summit draws nearer, both countries face a complex and high-stakes situation, to say the least, with deep economic, political, and strategic impact on the horizon. For Trump, the meeting with Xi Jinping could be an opportunity to reset trade ties, but failure to reach a deal could have far-reaching implications for global stability. Hardline conservative Sanae Takaichi has become Japan's first female prime minister after winning votes in the parliament's lower house and upper house. A short while ago, the Japanese emperor officially appointed her as the new prime minister of the country, and the visuals from that ceremony showed Takaichi and other newly appointed ministers bowing before the emperor, a custom that's integral to Japanese culture. In fact, Takaichi received 237 votes in the lower house election to choose the next premier, while in the upper house election, she won 125 votes in the runoff against the leader of the main opposition Constitutional Democratic Party. Her victory shatters the glass ceiling in a country where men still hold overwhelming sway. On October 4, she was elected as the head of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. But Takaichi had to look for new partners to form her government after the Komeito party, uncomfortable about the conservative views and an LDP slush fund scandal, quit their coalition. And this forced Takaichi to form an alliance with the reformist right-leaning Japan Innovation Party. A former economic security minister, Takaichi is considered a China hawk. She has been a vocal critic of China and its military buildup in the Indo-Pacific. She has also been supportive of Taiwan, calling for strengthening security cooperation between Taipei and Tokyo. Takaichi looks to the late British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher as her political idol, earning her the moniker of Iron Lady 2.0. Takaichi is also a fan of heavy metal music and was once a drummer in a college heavy metal band. She describes herself as an amateur drummer who idolizes bands like Iron Maiden and Deep Purple. Reacting to her victory, a spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry urged Takaichi to honor commitments on history and Taiwan.
Japan will work with China in the same direction, abide by the principles set out in the 4 political documents between China and Japan, honor its political commitments on major issues, including those related to history and Taiwan, uphold the political foundation of bilateral relations, and advance the comprehensive development of the China-Japan strategic and mutually beneficial partnership.
Considered a protege of Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, Takaichi has taken a tough stance on immigration and foreign tourists, both of which emerged as key issues in the LDP leadership race. Takaichi is expected to move Japan further to the right. She has promised to more strictly regulate immigration and tourism in Japan and has positioned herself as a hardliner focused on defense and economic security. And those in Delhi today, a day after the Festival of Lights, Diwali, woke up to a thick layer of smog engulfing Delhi just hours after those celebrations ended. The festival turned into a morning of grey skies, leading to burning eyes. At 5:30 a.m. IST today, Delhi's air quality index stood at 346, basically in the very poor category. The air that millions inhaled this morning was reportedly filled with fine particles and toxic fumes. The Supreme Court, remember, had permitted the use of only green firecrackers between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. on Diwali night. But across Delhi, the rule was reportedly ignored. So it seems, with the bursting of firecrackers continuing well past midnight in some parts, filling the air with smoke and pollutants. Since 2020, authorities have banned the sale and bursting of traditional firecrackers in Delhi during Diwali. Pollution readings from 36 of Delhi's 38 monitoring stations showed air quality in the very poor to severe range. In Punjabi Bagh, the AQI touched a staggering 999. The highest possible reading, while several other parts registered an AQI above 500, 10 times higher than what the World Health Organization considers safe, 10 times higher than that. Just for context here, the Central Pollution Control Board measures the air quality index based on the 24-hour average of all air quality monitors there. Delhi's 24-hour average AQI at 4 p.m. on Monday stood at 345, climbed further to 351 by 4 p.m. on Tuesday. In fact, data from the government's decision support system showed vehicles contributed about 16% of the pollution, while industries and local emissions made up nearly a quarter. In response, the Commission for Air Quality Management has enforced Stage 2 of the Graded Response Action Plan, GRAP. Construction dust will be restricted, diesel generators will be curbed, road cleaning will be intensified. If conditions worsen, Stage 3 of the GRAP measures could be brought in, bringing in even tougher curbs to control the toxic air situation. Stage 3 is usually enforced when the air quality index exceeds 400. The festival has ended, but for Delhi, the real battle begins now. The fight and the basic right to breathe clean quality air. In a deeply moving ceremony at St. Peter's Square, the Pope officially declared 7 new saints, shining a spotlight on extraordinary lives marked by transformation, faith, unwavering dedication to humanity. Among the newest saints is Bartolo Longo, an Italian lawyer who once served as a satanic priest before experiencing a profound spiritual conversion that led him back. In fact, Longo went on to become a tireless promoter of the Rosary. He founded the Pontifical Shrine of the Blessed Virgin of the Rosary of Pompeii, this major pilgrimage site and the beacon of devotion. His remarkable journey from darkness to light, embodying the Church's message of redemption and hope. In fact, then there's also Jose Gregorio, whose reputation in Venezuela is legendary. Born in 1864, Hernandez was a doctor who dedicated himself to treating the sick and poor. He often refused payment from those who could not afford it, and even giving money for medicine out of his own pocket. He was known for walking long distances to make sure people got the care that they needed. After his tragic death in a road accident in 1919, his reputation only grew. Millions of Venezuelans started to venerate him as a spiritual intercessor, believing in his miraculous healings and blessings. His canonization by the Pope this week is historic. He is Venezuela's first official saint. For many, he embodies compassion, selflessness, and the true spirit of service. The other 5 saints recognized on Sunday include courageous martyrs, missionaries, devoted nuns, who all dedicated their lives to serving the sick, the poor, and those facing persecution. The Pope used the occasion to remind the faithful that faith is the foundation of all true human progress, whether it's cultural, scientific, or artistic. He also encouraged everyone to look to these new saints for inspiration, especially in times of suffering and hardship. The ceremony drew an estimated 70,000 people to St. Peter's Square, with millions more watching around the world. This is the second canonization the Pope has conducted since becoming the Pope earlier this year. The world went quiet, screens froze, payments failed, servers blinked out. In fact, a single outage, but it felt like a digital blackout across continents when Amazon's mighty cloud stumbled. The global economy discovered just how fragile its foundations really are.
It started like any other Monday until it didn't. From New York to New Delhi, users found themselves staring at blank screens. Amazon Web Services, or AWS, the invisible engine behind much of the modern internet, suddenly went dark. Within minutes, the outage rippled through homes, offices, and industries. Zoom calls collapsed, streaming services stopped buffering, payments stalled, and AI tools froze mid-sentence. Even hospital systems and logistics networks reported brief disruptions. The chaos was global, yet triggered by a fault in just one company's cloud. AWS powers everything from Netflix and Spotify to government data and banking systems. The disruption revealed an uncomfortable truth. The digital world is built like a house of glass, with a handful of cloud giants holding the pillars of modern life.
The issue that we've identified with Amazon saying that they've had problems with this DNS resolution is effectively an inability to translate those basic terms of the words into the numbers that get you to an actual website. And that might seem like it's not a huge issue, but that is a problem because obviously that results in people not being able to log on to websites.
It was a wake-up call for the age of digital dependency. When one node falters, the whole web trembles. Experts warn that as AI and automation dominate daily operations, such outages aren't just inconveniences, they're economic earthquakes.
The world now runs on the cloud. Internet is almost like, we treat it like almost a utility now. It should work, we expect it to work. So much of us live our lives on our phones, in technology, but so much of that is underpinned by quite a small portion of companies. And what happens there is that it's very difficult for users to pinpoint what's happening.
The world is connected, yes, but the systems are terrifyingly brittle. The failure didn't just cause financial losses, it sparked widespread anxiety and frustration, demonstrating that the cloud is not an ethereal bulletproof entity, but a complex, susceptible network. It was a digital heart attack, a moment where the world was forced to pause and confront just how fragile its future truly is.
Washington's most famous house now under the hammer. Demolition crews have started tearing down part of the East Wing to make way for President Trump's grand ballroom there. A project stirring curiosity, also controversy, and a fair share of silence inside the White House. Take a look.
Thousands of visitors set out early to locate a vantage point close to the inaugural stand, hiding all three branches of government. You will repeat after me.
For over 2 centuries, the White House has stood as both symbol and stage, evolving through wars, presidencies, and quiet midnight rebuilds. Now it's undergoing one of its boldest makeovers, yet the sound of heavy machinery now echoes across the South Lawn. Construction is officially underway on one of the most significant structural changes to the White House complex in over 80 years. The target is a portion of the East Wing, specifically the facade that for decades has been the main visitor's entrance and home to the First Lady's offices. This is the first step in creating President Trump's massive, privately funded ballroom, a 90,000 square foot annex built to host nearly 700 guests.
I want to build a ballroom. It needs it badly. And a ballroom that could seat 600 or 700 people so that when you have state dinners or more if it's possible.
The demolition extends to the East Wing facade overlooking the Treasury Building, a portion of the White House complex completed in 1902. The wing has stood witness to generations of American diplomacy, hosting receptions, state visits, and Red Cross activities during World War II. With the construction activity in full swing, employees have reportedly been told not to share images from inside. As security restrictions tighten around the heavily guarded site, Trump has described the project as a legacy space for America, insisting it won't interfere with the original structure of the White House. It's not the first time the White House has been reimagined. Harry Truman rebuilt the entire interior between 1948 and 1952, after it was found structurally unsafe, leaving only the outer shell intact. Jackie Kennedy later led a sweeping restoration of art and furniture, turning it into a living museum. Now, Trump's renovation. The first major structural alteration in 7 decades is once again changing how the world's most famous address looks and feels.
There's a rather strange noise echoing through schools in the United States, the UK, even Australia. It's not a fire alarm or a school bell. It's children yelling 6-7. 6-7. Nobody really knows why, but it seems to be just about everywhere. This craze started online and quickly turned into real-world chaos. Students shouting 6-7 down hallways, in classrooms, even during sports events. Teachers seem to be baffled. Some schools already banned the phrase, calling it disruptive. And the origin of this phrase, in case you're wondering, the internet attributes it to a rapper named Skrilla. His song lies at the root of it, featuring numbers in its chorus. And then a young American high school basketball star turned it into a TikTok trend with a hand gesture. And from there onwards, the phrase exploded, spreading across TikTok, sports videos, even TV shows. But then here's the rather intriguing part. And the question, what does it even mean and why has it led to such a reaction? Ask any teen, maybe, and you are likely to get a different answer. Some say it means so-so, others say it's just a joke, while most admit it means nothing at all, and that's the secret in a way. Experts say that the entire point is that 6-7 is not about meaning, it's about belonging. It's an in-joke, in a way for children to feel part of something that adults don't quite seem to understand, they say. But not everyone is amused here. Teachers say that it's become a classroom nightmare. Some are punishing students for saying it, others have given up and simply joined in. Because when a phrase with no meaning in a way takes over millions of children's lives, what can you possibly do? The trend does, in a way, prove one thing. In the world of the internet and the digital space, gibberish spreads faster than logic. The dream of returning to the moon is hitting turbulence. NASA's Artemis mission, humanity's great comeback to the lunar surface, is facing delays, doubts, and drama. At the center of it all, SpaceX, once the crown jewel of ambition, now racing against time and rivals.
Half a century after Apollo, the moon was supposed to welcome humans again. It was meant to be NASA's grand comeback. Humanity's return to the moon after more than half a century. NASA's the Artemis 3 mission, slated to land. American astronauts on the lunar surface by 2027 now faces a new glitch. SpaceX, the company building the lunar lander, is behind schedule and NASA is reopening the race to new contenders. NASA is now inviting new bids for the $4.4 billion lunar lander contract, once awarded solely to SpaceX and its ambitious Starship rocket. Blue Origin, owned by Jeff Bezos, along with aerospace, Titan Lockheed Martin, is expected to join the fray, each eager to carry astronauts back to the lunar surface for the first time since Apollo 17 in 1972. NASA's officials say the goal is not to replace SpaceX, but to expand options, ensuring that no single failure delays humanity's return to the moon. But insiders suggest frustration is mounting. SpaceX's Starship system, a towering two-stage rocket meant to ferry astronauts, has struggled with launch setbacks, explosion risks, and system integration issues. NASA's urgency is clear. The Artemis program isn't just about exploration, it's about geopolitical leadership in space. China has already ramped up its own lunar ambitions, eyeing a permanent moon base by 2030. For the United States, delay means losing both time and dominance. The moon, once a symbol of American triumph, is becoming a theater of competition once more. NASA's next move could redefine the future of space exploration, collaboration or confrontation, innovation or inertia. And as the agency reopens the door, one question lingers. Who will take humanity back to the moon, and who will be left orbiting the dream?
On to some breaking news coming in right this minute. Uncertainty is looming over the Trump-Putin Budapest meeting. Now, here's what we know so far. In a day of dramatic back and forth, the latest Reuters report saying that the meeting might not happen in the immediate future. So that's a significant development at this point. And this also comes at the back of a string of developments, remember. The Russian foreign minister had accused Poland of being ready to carry out a quote-unquote terrorist attack. This after the Polish foreign minister had said on Polish radio that he could not guarantee that an independent Polish court will not order the government to escort Putin's aircraft down to hand the suspect to the court in The Hague. And before that, Lavrov called out Western media for what he called misinforming in a way, and he expressed surprise upon learning from US media reportedly that the upcoming Russia-US summit might be postponed. Speaking at a news conference in Moscow, Lavrov said many Western news outlets are well known for their lack of integrity. All this as the prospects brightened with Zelensky along with the European countries agreeing for a battle line freeze. So a lot's going on. Let's just unpack those developments for you. With us on the broadcast this minute is our correspondent Susan Teherani. Susan, over to you. Just help us understand what has been said in the latest.
Right. So as you mentioned, Molly, this seems to be falling through this summit between Vladimir Putin and President Trump. We're just hearing now from the White House that they are now saying in earnest that there are no plans for U.S. President Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin to meet in the immediate future. This is according to a senior White House official. And U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov also have no plans to meet in person, according to that official. But they said that their call on Monday was productive. As you mentioned, there's the issue of the possible arrest because there is an ICC warrant against Putin to fly over Polish airspace. But also we heard earlier that when the two talked, the foreign minister and the secretary of state, it appeared that Russia continues to say that it wants a long-term peace plan and not a ceasefire. And it appears that, there was just too much daylight between the two, Secretary of State and also Lavrov, when it came to preliminary planning for this meeting. So while some of it has to do with, this airspace and there has to be exceptions for Putin to fly over Europe and all of that, but it also really raises the question of how productive that call really was between Rubio and Lavrov that caused the White House to say something like this. And President Trump possibly didn't want to risk another criticism that, he's just going to have a photo op with Putin, this time in Hungary, a third country, basically what happened in Alaska.
All right, so we're leaving it there for the moment, Susan, but definitely we do expect further developments and updates to trickle in, given how fast-paced the developments really have been so far. We're leaving it there. Thanks very much for now. It's a feat of endurance, determination, and sheer willpower. After more than 5.5 months at sea, 2 British women have completed a rather incredible journey of rowing non-stop, unsupported, and unescorted across the Pacific Ocean. They left Peru back in May, and on October 18, they finally arrived on Australia's east coast, docking at the club, the yacht club there, just before 7 p.m. They battled headwinds for hours that nearly blew them off course at the finish line. They spent 165 days at sea, rowing in 2-hour shifts around the clock in a 9-meter boat they named Velocity. They crossed more than 15,000 kilometers, or about 8,000 nautical miles, and through one of the world's most punishing marine environments. They are now believed to be the first all-female team to ever complete a non-stop, unsupported row across the Pacific Ocean, mainland to mainland. And at just 28 and 25 years old, they're also the youngest to do this. Their journey was nothing short of brutal, also miraculous, of course. They faced towering 30-foot waves, storms that wiped out their electronics, failing solar power, and at one point they became a ghost ship in a way, without beacons or working navigation equipment that were invisible to the other vessels. They powered themselves using freeze-dried food. A water desalinator even grew their own microgreens on board. They also witnessed a so-called chocolate emergency, with just 2 bars left with over 1,000 miles to go. But they pressed on, stroke after stroke, through blistered hands, burning heat, sleepless nights. They rowed together during the day, and one would row solo at night while the other caught a few hours of sleep in that cramped cabin. What was their average? About 50 nautical miles a day, and all powered by nothing but grit and oars. Their achievement has already entered the record books and raised a lot of money for the Outward Bound Trust as well, which is a youth development charity. And now back on land, they say that they are still trying to believe it's real. What's next, you ask? For now, they need to rest, of course, and perhaps would use a proper bar of chocolate. In Nepal, faith, loyalty, and compassion come together in the Hindu festival of Kukur Tihar, a festival dedicated entirely to dogs. The roots of this devotion go back to the Mahabharata, when the Pandavas journeyed towards heaven. Only the eldest, Yudhishthir, reached its gates. But he refused to enter without his loyal dog. The animal then revealed itself as the god of death, who was moved by the king's compassion and granted him entry. And that legend lives on through Kukur Tihar. On this day, dogs, both pets and strays, are worshipped as divine messengers. People bathe them, oil their paws, decorate them with bright garlands. Their foreheads are marked with a red tilak, a symbol of respect and gratitude. Believers say that honoring dogs pleases the god, ensuring protection and safe passage in the afterlife. They also believe that if one must face punishment in hell, a loyal dog could stand guard and protect them from eternal pain. The celebration fills up Nepal's streets with life and color. Lamps light up homes and temples, while people feed dogs offerings of meat, milk, eggs. In capital Kathmandu, stray dogs are welcomed with open arms and even served in cafes. But behind the beauty of the festival lies a challenge as well. Nepal struggles with rabies, a disease mostly spread through stray dogs. Local reports say rabies kills over 100 people every year. More than 55,000 citizens seek anti-rabies vaccines annually, and authorities have vaccinated nearly 90% of Kathmandu's 19,000 strays. And 10,000 more will be sterilized this year. The festival is part of the 5-day Tihar festival, which runs alongside Diwali. The first day honors crows, believed to ward off sorrow and misfortune. The third day celebrates cows, and the final day is devoted to brothers and sisters. But this festival belongs to the dog, a friend, a guardian, and for believers, a messenger between life and death. It's a celestial visitor older than empires, and now it returns for the last time in 1300 years. The comet, a glowing green wanderer from the edge of our solar system, will be streaking across Earth's skies in a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. If you miss it tonight, you might never see it again.
High above the twilight horizon, a faint emerald glow will pierce the darkness. That's Comet Lemon, named after the Mount Lemmon Observatory in Arizona, where it was discovered. It's been traveling for centuries through frozen silence, tracing a vast 1300-year orbit that reaches deep into the outer solar system. And now, for one brief night, it graces Earth's sky once more before vanishing into cosmic exile until the year 3325. Astronomers say Lemon will be visible shortly after sunset. Best seen from the northern hemisphere, you won't need a telescope, just a dark, clear sky and patience. Look low in the western sky near the constellation Scorpius. A glowing misty green tail will mark its path. Comets like Lemon are cosmic time capsules. They are vessels of ice, dust, and rock left over from the solar system's formation 4.6 billion years ago. They journey through space in long looping orbits altered over centuries by the sun's powerful gravity. Soon, Comet Lemon will fade from view, vanishing back into the outer solar system, where it will remain invisible to human eyes until it returns in the early 32nd century. For now, the moment is ours to pause, look up and witness a rare cosmic dance that connects us to the vast universe beyond. Bureau Report WION World is One.
Ten-year-old Indian origin chess queen continuing to grab all the headlines. Bodhana Sivanandan has become one of the youngest players ever to defeat a former world champion. She achieved this remarkable feat during the European Club Cup in Rhodes in Greece. She defeated Ukraine's former women's champion, Grandmaster Maria Mozichuk. The 33-year-old is a two-time national champion and held the women's world title in 2015. Experts at the tournament described Sivanandan's performance as near perfect, especially given that Mozichuk's rating of 2525 was 320 points higher than Sivanandan's 2205. And this achievement comes just months after she became the youngest ever to beat a Grandmaster. She defeated 60-year-old Grandmaster Peter Wells in the British Chess Championships in the month of August. The London-based chess player only took up the sport during the COVID-19 lockdown. Bodhana played her life's first tournament in 2021, and it was in 2022 when she first captured the world's attention. At the age of 6, she won the silver medal in the under-8 girls group at the European Youth Rapid and Blitz Chess Championships in Greece. And she then finished second in the English Women's Blitz Open a few months later. The 10-year-old wants to become the youngest chess grandmaster in the world, and experts say she is on track to do so. However, she must still deliver a few more landmark performances against top-tier opponents to reach the required rating. The current record holder for youngest grandmaster is American chess player Abhimanyu Mishra. He earned the title in 2021 at 12 years, 4 months and 25 days. With that, it's a wrap on this edition. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.